Behold the glorious dragon that I have summoned.
Ted, either I have pierced your illusion, or you massively screwed up this spell. But let's talk about top 10 D&D homebrew illusion spells, if that's what you're going for.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds.
Now let's see if we can see through these illusions in this video.
So, in case you're wondering what this video is about and you're not familiar with our top 10 D&D homebrew series, I'm going to tell you. So basically, we look at the top 10 homebrew spells for any particular school of magic, in this case, illusion magic. And the way that we get to that place and figure out what the top 10 are is we go over to D&D Beyond, sort all the illusion spells, and then sort them again by the most viewed spells. And we imagine that's what people are looking for and they've looked at. So that's how we come up with the top 10 and what we think people are interested in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through that top 10 list. We're going to say them all. And then after that, me and Ted will each pick a spell that we're curious and interested in and share that with you guys and our thoughts on that spell. So let me get my handy dandy device here. So we have Shadow Clone, Arion's Arcane Image. Hey, over here, pre-post image, Glamour, Archon's Famous Facial, Archon's Fireflies, Dreamwalker, Memory Night, and Bard's Accompaniment.
You can head over to D&D Beyond and check out that list. All it takes is signing up for a free account to get access to all the homebrew stuff. You can even head out in the description, take a look at that article. If you're heading over to D&D Beyond, I should mention that they are a sponsor for this particular video. We're big fans. We've been using them for quite some time, and they really help out our games. So help out the channel and check out D&D Beyond.
Yeah, and that article Ted mentioned is a factor of 3. Nerdarchy Doug, he puts together a list just basically like we're doing, except for he does it times 3. And if you want to see that and get the additional content, there will be a link down in the description, also a card up here.
All right, so the spell that I've picked is going to be Hey Over Here. It's 2nd level, casting time of an action, range 60 feet. It's only a verbal component. Duration is 8 rounds. School is illusion. There's no attack or save, and the effect is kind of awkward. Create 2d6 copies of caster within a 60-foot radius. The copies are indistinguishable from the caster apart from weapons and attacks pass right through them. They are controlled by the caster mentally via free action and can do 3 things. Imitate the caster, distract enemies, or scatter. Imitate the caster. Copies imitate the movements and speech pattern of the caster. If casting, the copies will not imitate spell effects, i.e. casting Fireball. Only the caster uses Fireball. The copies just mimic the motions. They can distract. Copies can be ordered to attempt to distract enemies. Copies can imitate combat, but any weapons they do don't deal damage. They can scatter. Copies run away in different directions chosen by the caster. The copies can move at the caster's speed and will actively avoid combat. Each double can be discovered with a successful perception check against the caster's spell DC. Each double gets a perception check to be discovered when interacting with anything but each other. So this is by Decor the Barbarian and available for Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard. I really like this. There's no real mechanical aspect tied to each of the different actions that it can do, so it's really dependent upon what the GM is going to say that this does. I would imagine Distract could possibly get in there and cause some disadvantage on the next attack roll. It could do some interesting things. Imitate Caster could attempt to lure somebody away from where they're doing, and Scatter could try to separate groups of enemies. But the fact that it's interpretative makes me really enjoy this. For some, I think they might have a problem since there's no mechanics tied to it. But to me, that's what actually drew it in. I find it's weird that it's got a set duration of 8 rounds as opposed to like concentration up to a minute or something along those lines. But all in all, I really dig this spell.
A spell like this could be really great or terrible, just depending on what your DM does with it. Like, there's nothing in the spell that would say that that it's going to grant any particular advantage or disadvantage to anybody. So the GM could just ignore it if you've got kind of a cruddy GM.
Right.
And also depending on what you try and do with them as well. The only mechanic is perception check. Again, like if something has a high passive perception, then this spell would probably be useless against it. The one thing I did think about with the Imitate Caster, this would be great for a sorcerer with a subtle spell, especially if you're casting spells that have effects that take, happen more, at a range than where you are, because then you cast subtle with it and there's no components to it.
Right. You do something and like a spell effect goes off. So they wouldn't know who actually cast it. So it could be really cool.
Yeah, so you could gain some benefit from that. Illusion School in general is just really tricky in the sense that it relies on DM fiat. And if you have a generous GM, that can be great especially if you're a creative player and think of cool things to do with your illusions. But, if you do not have a generous GM, Illusion School is actually the worst school in the game.
I would sadly have to agree.
Yeah, sadly too, because it is it's been one of my favorite schools of Magic. So I went with something that I just found it to be kind of humorous and silly. And that's what I'm here for today. It's a first level spell, Bard's Accompaniment by DM Ferris. Casting time is an action, range is 60 foot, verbal somatic components, its concentration 30 minutes. There's no damage or effect, and there is no save or attack. This spell creates a group of 4 or 5 ghostly beings. They can take any color or general shape the caster chooses. They will provide a backup vocals or instrumentals the bard needs for their performance. For the duration of the spell, all performance checks have advantage, and it is for bards. So basically, it just gives you the backup dancer or backup, I would say dancers, any kind of performer, really, right? Vocals, instruments, and then you just have advantage on your performance checks for 30 minutes. Rarely does performance really affect anything in the game. I've seen it used in some unusual ways as a check, but not as performance here. So, it's just a silly, fun thing that I could definitely see a bard doing, especially if you go into a tavern and there's a bard performing, or maybe you're a bard and you're like, I can do better than this guy, and you're just like, and then appears behind you is the ghost choir, and you begin doing your thing.
I would absolutely, love that. I think you picked the spell before I had a chance to get in there. Yeah. Otherwise, absolutely would have picked that one. I think, while it doesn't have any combat applications, I could totally see it, being done of like, all right, I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna go into combat with some backup dancers. I think it'd be amusing.
That might be funny as well. I start thinking of fun and interesting ways to use this. I think about what if you encounter a dragon and it starts off as a conversation first, and the bard decides to try and win the dragon over by telling a tale or singing them a song, and they summon these backup performers, and maybe they make they're all dragonborn and the scale color of the dragon, and and you could do fun things like that. But like you said, in combat, it's not really going to do much other than the aesthetic of, if you just want backup dancers or singers while you're fighting, just don't get hit, or you're gonna have to make that concentration check. And also, a lot of the really good bard spells happen to be concentration spells anyway.
I dig it. I think there's lots of fun ways to use it, and I think creative players are gonna see something like that out there and get used, because it's that's the bard's cup of tea.
I think if you're a GM and you have a bard in the group, this would be a great reward for them, is adding this to their spell list, just because, or giving them a boon that lets them cast this once a day or something. I think your bard characters would appreciate that.
100%.
Have you made any spells over on the D&D Beyond Homebrew? If you have, even if you haven't, leave a comment down in the comment section below with your thoughts and ideas. Tell us spells that you've made, what you think. Would you allow these in your game?
While you're down there, don't forget to do all those fun things that make Nerdarchy and YouTube happy. Like, share, subscribe, even go ahead and click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we drop new videos here on the channel, so come on back. But you can't wait till then? No worries. We've got you covered. There's a card up here and also in the description. You can check out our top 10 homebrew spells for transmutation.
So until next time, stay nerdy.